Hello everyone, Wolfen is back with another video, and today we'll find out if it's possible to beat The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone DLC while at level 1. This means that I am only allowed to use the skills, potions and equipment you have at the very beginning of the game when you wake up in White Orchard. So basically I don't have anything useful to my name aside from the Thunderbolt and Tony Owl potions, which are in your inventory from the very beginning of the game and you don't have to craft them. That being said, by this point even they are not that useful considering all the enemies I fight are level 30 and above. And because of that, just in case, I will also keep the Sword Eredin drops when you defeat him in the main game, because I'm not certain I will be able to beat all the bosses with my weak ass swords. Finally, this is part 2 of the challenge, so if you haven't seen the first part, feel free to do so before you watch this one, as I have a better explanation of the rules and it's also a very entertaining video. But with the rules out of the way, let's begin with the challenge. Our story begins near Oxenfurt, where I had to find Olgierd von Everec. One of his lackeys decided that he was a big boy and wanted to fight me, and considering that fist fights were pretty much the only kind of combat I could actually be competitive in and didn't have to take 3 hours of my time in order to beat even the simplest enemy, I was very happy to comply and beat the crap out of that guy. I then met up with Olgierd and watched as he destroyed a priceless statue. He wanted me to kill a monster in the sewers of Oxenfurt, and being the idiot I am, I accepted that. I then arrived in the Oxenfurt sewers and immediately faced my first real enemy of the game. Now, normally a single Drowner would be no match for the Witcher, considering that he would be dealing like 1000 damage with every hit. Unfortunately, in this case I was only dealing about 250 damage per strong attack, so even a single Drowner was taking a while to defeat. That being said, since it was just one Drowner and I didn't have to worry about something jumping behind my back, I was able to deal with the Drowner relatively easy. I then found Shani out of nowhere, which was very nice for her because otherwise she would have been eaten by the Drowners. Then the pain began because I had to fight with multiple Drowners at once. And once again, usually that won't be that big of a deal, but this time I'm using a glorified pogo stick as a sword, along with an armor that protects me as much as a sheet of paper would. So it was critical to constantly dodge the Drowners and hit them whenever I could, even if I had my shield up, because if they managed to hit me, it would take some time until I could activate my shield again. And if I got hit without my shield, I was pretty much dead anyway. The good thing is that there was a room full of poisonous gas which I could use in order to set the Drowners on fire, which was extremely helpful when dealing a lot of damage to the Drowners. The only challenging thing was actually getting them there without poisoning myself. Thanks to the poisonous gas, I managed to kill every single one of the Drowners. After that, I had to deal with 2 more Drowners that were protecting the entrance to the Toad Prince's cave, but compared to the 8 I had to fight just before that, they were pretty easy to deal with. Now, the Toad Prince was practically impossible to defeat. He has a mountain of health even in a normal playthrough, and the fact that I'm pretty much attacking him with a toothpick doesn't really help my case. He barely gets damaged by my Igni attacks since they haven't been developed at all. The poisonous gas does nothing to him, and he has a licking attack that deals damage to me even if I have my shields on. And that stupid tongue attack was the bane of my existence because he somehow was still hitting me with it even if I wasn't standing in front of him, and there was absolutely no way he could actually hit me with it. I got so badly destroyed that at one point even my controller gave up on me and Geralt wasn't moving at all. Things got so desperate that in the end I decided to take out Eredin's sword, which I do admit it was kinda cheating, but in my defense I will say that my other sword was barely doing any damage to him, and at least with that one I had some fighting chance. The battle was still very difficult and I died numerous times, and it wasn't like my sword was extremely powerful, it was only doing about 2.5 times more damage than my other sword was doing, which is still very low considering how powerful you usually are during this part of the game. Anyway, after numerous failed attempts, I was finally able to cut down the damn beast, and despite having a better sword, it still took me around 30 minutes on the successful attempt alone. Had I continued with the other blade, I would have probably taken over an hour to just kill it, not counting any unsuccessful attempts, because he decided to lick me a bit too aggressively. After this grueling encounter, I met up with Master Mirror and he promised to rescue me from the Ophiri, provided that he places a fancy tattoo on my face. Not having anything better to do with my life, I accepted, and as soon as I did, the ship was destroyed and I was able to escape from the Ophiri. I untied myself and gathered my awful equipment and was given an opportunity to fight with the Ophiri, but I decided against it because they would have absolutely wiped the floor with me, since for some reason now humans were pretty much one of the most powerful enemies in the game, because they are always ganging up on you. It's very rarely that you would fight a human one-on-one in this game. I met up with Master Mirror and he told me that he would remove the tattoo from my face if I accepted to help him. I wasn't convinced at first because he was clearly very powerful and dangerous, but then he mentioned that he wanted to kill Olgierd von Everich, so naturally I accepted immediately. When I arrived at Olgierd's place, I saw that two of his goons wanted to execute some random guy. I couldn't let them do that, so I threatened them. Unfortunately, that's when Olgierd showed up and challenged me to a fight. I was very confident that I would defeat him. After all, he was wearing no armor or anything like that. And then the guy started teleporting all over the place and I was doing only like 50 damage to him. How is that even possible? I hit Olgierd multiple times and he only hit me like twice and I was done. You know what? Execute the guy. I can't be bothered saving him. I cannot be bothered to fight this guy. Why is he teleporting all over the place? What in Imlerif's name is this? I was feeling like the biggest loser in history. I had lost all my aura just giving up like that. And then to make things even better, some random woman stabbed the guy in the heart. Thankfully he's immortal, because otherwise could you imagine the embarrassment I would have felt, considering that I gave up fighting him and then some random woman shows up and just stabs him in the heart? Thankfully Gunther then showed up and it appeared that even Olgierd was afraid of him. I was then given the task to fulfill 3 of Olgierd's wishes. The first one was to acquire the house of Maximilian Borsodi. That sounded easy enough, so after striking out with horns, it was time to complete the heist quest. But before that I got to beat up a few gentlemen, and that was very satisfying because they were quite easy. In order to plan the heist, I had to get to the herbalist's hut. Unfortunately, 3 Knights of the Flaming Rose were camping there, and that's when I realized that my punches were doing more damage than my actual steel sword. How is that even possible? Like, I get that the beginning steel sword is just a bit stronger than the wooden sword, for example, but how the hell is it weaker than your punches? After that discovery, it was very easy to deal with the knights. I beat up one of the knights and then used Axie and went behind the shield guys and dealt with them extremely easily. When planning the heist, I decided to go with Casimir because, while he does blow up the door, which causes you to have a fight with the guards, that's still better than what Queen 2 gives you, because while he opens the door quietly, you're then forced to deal with a few arachnomorphs, and they are much more difficult to fight than the humans, so I much rather fight with the humans instead. I gathered my allies and bribed the chef, and it was time to complete the heist. During the heist itself, you are unable to access your inventory, so I was forced to actually wear a decent armor for once. Other than that, the wooden sword was almost as strong as my steel sword, so I don't even see a reason why I had to use it. At this point, my steel sword is basically a non-lethal weapon, considering that my punches are stronger than it. I then had to fight against Horns Borsodi and his 2 little bodyguards. That fight was extremely easy considering that it was a 3-on-3 encounter, so everyone was basically fighting against one enemy. Unfortunately for him, Yurt and I couldn't make a deal, so I decided to just kill him and Casimir and take all the treasure for myself. I then had to revive the spirit of Vladimir von Everich. and in the crypt you have to fight with multiple wraiths, but the good thing is that the wraiths only attack you 2 at a time. Unfortunately, right after that all 5 Von Evericks attack you at once, but they were surprisingly easy to deal with as well because for some reason they weren't really attacking me that much. They were very chill spirits, even though I was raiding their crypt. The wedding is very chill and you can avoid all kinds of combat during it, but if you really want to fight, you can destroy the 3 brothers with a piece of wood that's probably stronger than my steel sword. And you can also fight with the boar that is trying to kill the fire breather, which is again a very easy enemy to kill. With 2 tasks completed, I only needed to deliver the rose that Olgierd gave to Iris, which was easier said than done considering that was ages ago. Oh, and I almost forgot. The garden is protected by this lovely gentleman. He seems like a lovely guy. Oh no, wait, he wants to kill me as well. Wonderful. Jokes aside, the caretaker is honestly very easy to fight because he gives you many openings to attack him, especially when he jams his spade into the ground and gives you plenty of opportunities to hit him multiple times. His attacks are also not very strong considering that they can't even damage you past your shield, like the Toad Prince could for example. The only issue is that the fight takes a while because you're still doing barely any damage to him, and he heals himself 2 times, which makes the fight even longer. And speaking of bosses that heal themselves, next up we have the Wraith of the Painting. And while the caretaker had a limit of 2 times to heal himself, this boss has no such thing and she can heal herself whenever the hell she wants to. And to make things even better, due to the low amount of damage you do to her, unless you guess correctly in which painting she will spawn every time, you're basically doing nothing to her because even if she manages to heal herself for a second, that would be more than enough to make all the progress you have made by that point invalid. We were basically locked in an endless fight because she wasn't very strong. Even if she managed to hit me, that didn't do much damage to me and I could easily heal with my weak healing items. If I managed to hit her a few times, then she would just go heal herself and there would be nothing I could do about it, especially if Geralt decided that he wouldn't hit the painting for some reason. After a while I decided to just take out Eredin's blade once again because no matter how many times I hit her, I never really managed to damage the spirit of the painting and only managed to get some progress after changing my sword. And after a while I was able to defeat the Wraith. However, I do believe that it's impossible to beat her using your starting sword because even if you're just a second too late, she would be able to heal herself enough to cancel all the progress you had already made. I buried Iris's body and then headed to the Painted World, which was also very painful to deal with. The reason for that is that you have to go through the memories of Iris von Everick, and if you just go through the memory where Iris is painting the house, little spiders would start showing up that will constantly attack you and spawn infinitely, because I did try to kill them all and after every time newer ones were spawning endlessly, which was a very bad thing because after you go through the memory where they get married, you have to deal with a giant spider, and considering that the little spiders were never leaving me alone, that was very problematic. The best strategy I came up with was to stick around the fountain where the memory ends, because if you're lucky you're just attacked by 3 little spiders along with the big one, and if you don't leave that area no other spiders will attack you. But even that plan was very difficult to execute because even if you went a little bit outside of the area, new spiders would attack you constantly, and without a shadow of a doubt this was definitely the hardest part of the third task. Even though you have 3 very difficult boss battles during it, the small spiders definitely made things very difficult, but once I managed to kill them, the big one was relatively easy to deal with, as I only needed to concentrate on it. I continued following Iris's memories, but now I had to fight with humanoid specters, which compared to the spiders were like a walk in the park, especially considering the fact that they weren't even trying to block my attacks, they were just taking them. I then watched as Olgierd killed his father-in-law, but in his defense I would say that I don't think he really wanted to kill him, the dad was just extremely weak. And in the ultimate Uno reverse, Olgierd then fed his carcass to the beasts. which are apparently ghouls because the next specters were in the form of ghouls. I didn't know you could have ghouls as pets. That would make my life so much easier. After dealing with the ghouls, I had to fight against Iris's greatest fear, which was basically a much easier version of the Ogre fight. The reason for that is that I only needed to defeat the first Ogre in a fair fight, as I could get all the others in an infinite loop of attacks where they would have no chance of defending themselves, and all I had to do was keep attacking them until they died. And all you have to do in order to achieve this strategy is just start attacking the Ogre before he can take any steps, as after that he is locked in one place and can't do anything against you. I couldn't get that strategy to work on the first one, but as long as you manage to defeat that one, you should have no issues to defeat the others, no matter how weak your swords are. I acquired the rolls from Iris, and Gunther showed me a neat party trick by stopping time, because apparently he can do that. And when that was done, I had two options. Either go meet with Ogert and end the DLC here, or for once to not be a coward and try to defeat Gunther because he's a menace to society. He can stop time and insert spoons into your eyes. You can never be safe with that guy, even with my fancy glasses. So Shani and I headed to find Professor Shake's log, but before that I had to face with 3 drowners. And these drowners were extremely tough to beat compared to the ones I had at the very beginning of the DLC. It was like my toothpick of a sword wasn't doing anything to them. Even Iris's greatest fear went down easier than those guys. And speaking of things that were tougher than Iris's greatest fear, next up we have this random witch hunter that was blocking almost everything that I was throwing at him. I don't know why he was so strong or why he was so good at blocking stuff. Honestly, he should be protecting the king. If he was protecting Radovid, I would have had no chance of killing the guy. After this unexpected final boss battle, I met up with the professor and he told me more information about Gunther and how I could defeat him. After that he died, which was kinda my fault because if I never showed up there, he would still be in his little circle, which granted is a very miserable existence, but he would have still been alive. Anyway, I couldn't even be bothered to send somebody to deal with the body as I had business to attend to. I met up with Ogert, showed him that I had fulfilled the 3rd task, and Gunther Odim decided to not come like a regular person. No. He had to aura farm like crazy. He was aura farming like there was no tomorrow. I couldn't stand for that anymore. I challenged him to a one-on-one fight. Thankfully, Gunther decided to not have an actual fight because I would have been screwed then. He only wanted me to solve a riddle. How easy is that? The riddle was in fact so easy that I even had time to steal all the gold I could ever carry, and I even got the chance to ignore Shani's pleas for help. I have no idea what she was doing there, but she informed me that she was leaving Oxenfurt soon, so I wouldn't see her anymore anyway. I couldn't care less if she falls to her death or not. I solved the riddle and banished Gunther to the Shadow Realm, which was a good thing because even though he was nothing but helpful to me throughout this whole DLC, he was dangerous and I didn't wanna risk his presence being there ruining my fun. I guess that also means that I kinda saved Ogert, which was never my intention. I just wanted to get rid of Gunther, but hey, he gave me a sword, so I guess I'm no longer mad at him for trying to send me to my death multiple times. And that's how we complete the challenge. In the end I did fail it 2 times because I couldn't defeat the Toad Prince with the level 1 sword, even though it's possible. It would just take an extremely long time to beat him. And the second time was when fighting the Ray from the painting, where I am convinced that it's impossible to beat it with the level 1 sword because the damage you do is just too little, and if you let it heal even for a second, all the damage you have done up to that point would be cancelled pretty much. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. I post new videos every single week. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!